So let me show you how this, right, how a wire can affect an entire network, right? So, my folks were lawn mowing. Unfortunately, the cable got stuck, ends up spinning, and basically what happens then is it trips the breaker, yeah? So when that trips the breaker, the entire network goes off. And because the entire network's going off, I lose internet, which is really annoying. So what do you have to do? Well, first of all, you've got to bring the breaker back up. Now I've got to go back into VMware and fix it. But the problem is that, well, how do you go into VMware when you don't have a network, right? So this is where in networking, we have something called redundancy. So within your network architecture, you will essentially have more than one router, right? So my router is this. This is my main pfSense router, right? Now, normally within VMware, you have something called the VMware PowerShell API, right? To turn on and off your VMs, right? So if you're turning on and off your VMs via the PowerShell API, that's one way that you could do it through something like GitHub Actions, right? So you could do something like that. But what do you do when you don't have the network? The network's on the VMware, right? So you don't have any access to it. Okay, so going back to this, right? This is my UniFi switch. UniFi router. The UniFi router itself has redundancy within it because, I configured it to have DHCP and it has the same IP addressing as my main pfSense box, which means that in the event of failure, I can turn it on and I'll be able to get IP addresses directly into my VMware server. So, if we go back to my pfSense, the way I wired it is that one of these is wireless, and one of these is the LAN, right? Because I've got 8 of these ports. The way that works is that I've got a router on a stick on one of these ports, and I think it's this one. I can't remember exactly which one it is, but one of them does router on a stick, which I think is this one, and then this is for the wireless, which goes out, I think, if I remember correctly. And then you may be wondering, well, what's this cable doing? Well, this was the internet cable a long, long time ago, which I no longer use. That's just in there for decoration. So when that happens, we bring that cable straight down to the switch, right? The main switch is down here, because this goes off as well. So when this goes off, this comes on automatically, because this doesn't have an on-off button. Okay? So this will kick in. That will kick in, give me the IP addressing. Then all I have to do is kick this on. And again, the VMs don't come on, right? So what do I have to do? Well, I've got to find a cable within my network, right, which is on a certain VLAN, and it can be any VLAN which is connected to the main network because I got inter-VLAN routing. So because I have a cable which has inter-VLAN routing, what that means is if I can find the cable which goes in, right, then I'll be fine. Here's what we do. First thing that we need to do is we need to find the switch that has that's associated to the main problem, because we don't have GitHub Actions, or we don't have access to the internet. So, as you can see, we've got redundant power supplies within the Arista. This is the Arista switch, which does most of my heavy lifting. And you can see we've got a console from the back, if you want to do console. We also have the ability to have 2 different power supplies. I don't use that much energy, so I want to use one, because it can support the entire switch. So why waste more energy than what we need, because we're not running it in an industrial environment whereby we have 2 separate power rails, right? That's what happens in real life. In real life, unlike Cisco, Packet Tracer, you have multiple power rails for each switch, okay? And that's the main point here, right? You have redundancy built in. So at this point, the easy thing to do here is we need to connect to this port here, which is our console. So let's go and get our equipment to figure out what's going on with that. So I'll get my equipment down here because back in my previous video on my Cisco packet tracer course, I put the cable down here, and this is the one that we need, right? Because this is the big cable. See, this one down here. We follow that cable. What we can do is we can then take it out from the Cisco. You know, normally we'd have SSH, like we can SSH into it, but again, you know, this is a small lab setup, so it's a little bit more tricky, and this is why you can't kind of see everything that I'm doing, but here we go. So this is the cable. All right, cool. Okay, cool. So we have this cable here. Nice. This is our console cable, as mentioned in the course. And then we just stick that in here, which will be in the USB port, which is down here. And we got the nice confirmation there. Take this cable here, and we're gonna put that into our handy dandy switch. And the way that you do that is you look down here, okay, and then you want to look for the symbol which has the three dots and arrows on both sides. We're going to put that in there. Now, should be a bit careful with this because remember, certain systems, well, inside of a real industrial environment, you will have systems which have the enabled password. So make sure that you're authorized, or you're authorized against your AAA and your TACACS server. Okay, so that's the way that we used to do it back in the day. Nowadays, it might be through things like Active Directory. It could be through FreeRadius type servers, whereby you have to log in with your credentials to log into the switch via a username and password, or in more advanced cases, single sign-on. Okay, or even two-factor authentication. Sorry, my throat's a little dry. So, what do we do from here? Do you remember? Come on, you guys remember. So, from here, first thing that we need to do, Terraterm. Okay, serial. Okay. And we should, or we're supposed to get some information, even if it's wrong. So it's probably a break within the cable or something. I don't know. It's unusual. Let's check our setup. We need, I think it's TCP/IP. It looks good. Serial port. So we've got 9600.891, which should still be fine. We should be just getting garbled data because the baud rate's off. I think on this switch it's 1100, if I remember correctly. I think it's 115200 from what I remember. But we should still be getting data, and we're not. So I might need to restart the switch to get some data. Alternatively, it is on. So what we can do is experiment a little bit, and we can actually put different Ethernets into different ports, and then figure out if we get an IP. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to restart my switch because we should be getting data out of it anyway. But before I do, one good troubleshooting step is to check whether or not there's any sort of lights on the Arista itself to make sure to see even if we have any connectivity. And I can see that at the moment we do have what looks to be connectivity from the serial. So that's interesting. But we're getting nothing out. I'm going to just double check and take this lead out. Okay, we're not getting any connectivity. That's interesting. Okay. Right. Let's see, do we have anything? Nope. Let's try again. Maybe... Okay, we're not getting anything. That's interesting. Okay. Sometimes this happens. It happens with the switch. So we may... Okay, this is what we're going to do. What we're going to do. We're going to have to turn it off and back on again, I think. And then see if we get any sort of data. We should be able to get data. But the problem is with this particular switch, it's loud. So I don't particularly want to. I'm going to try a different port. I mean, I know that's the port, but I just want to try a different port. Okay, let's try that one. Let's try that one. Let's try the lower port. Because sometimes it can be management as well. So that's why we don't get any data. So let's just try a different port before we completely... There we go. There we go. Yeah, see? Sometimes it's just a different port because one of them is management, one of them isn't. So in this case, the port above, the top port on my Arista is actually a management port. Which is deceptive because the one with the 3 dots and the 2 arrows generally is the console. But again, I think an easier way is just look for the one that has like this symbol, which is a straight line, 2 circles, and 1 straight line. Just do that. Easier, right? I think for this one, it's a different pass. It's the same. It's a similar password to the lab. But because it's my normal kit, just you can have a little look at the chair for a minute. And there we go. All right, cool. So now we're in the Arista terminal. I'm going to type EN. I'm going to do a show run. Okay, cool. So we've got our configuration. And now this is a 48 port switch, right? So there's some couple of interesting things here that we need to note, right? So what I've done is I've done a static route. If this will even focus. 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 Okay, cool. I've done a static route to each one of my networks, right? So each one of the routers within my VLAN. So each VLAN interface, right? These are all VLAN interfaces. Essentially has a static route. And what that means is that each individual network from the VLAN is able... So each bit of information can go towards this interface regardless of what interface... regardless of what VLAN it's on. Right, there we go. Finally got it out. And then each interface on the switch is either configured for, like, you know, this is a 25G interface. We've got a trunking interface. Now, a trunking interface is just a interface which has the VLAN tag associated. So what that means is you are embedding extra information into the frame to say what the interface is doing. So it's like saying, I am VLAN 4, here is my ID of VLAN 4, may I please enter the building? And if it's allowed, it can, right? That's basically what you're saying. And that's basically what we're doing with a trunk. A trunk is we're just truncating that information to say, you know, it has that particular VLAN allowed, which is VLAN 5. Now, if you go up, now, of course, it's always good practice to describe what's going on in the network. And as we can see, you know, I've got port 47, which is on VLAN 4 as a switch port access. And this is where things like port fast can come into play. So on a real network, you know, if you have access layer levels, you don't need to go through STP. You can just go through something like port fast, which goes into the forwarding state of information very, very quickly without going through the learning and blocking states, right? Or that listening, for example, state. So we're just going into active mode. Right. So what we can see is that we have one particular port, which is on 37 or even 38, that we can use in order to access our VMware system. The one that we're looking for particularly is called Ethernet 38 because it's on the same VLAN as the VMware box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my switch and I'm going to look for cable number 38. And cable number 38 will be on the side here. And there should be a cable here, 38, which is this one below, right? So the way that you see it is you go here. And as you can see, although not very clearly, you got 38 and 37. So 37 means that it's the up cable, which is this cable, that one, and 38 is going to be this cable, which is down. Okay, so if I look for this cable, okay, and I just, well, it's not good practice to tug on it. I wouldn't recommend it in industry. But because we're doing diagnosis, and it's a home lab, right, what we can do is tug on the cable. So if we look for this cable, again, you've got to be careful here because I've got fiber optics. So let's just go through here and we'll trace this cable, which is down here, and it's over here. So I'm just kind of looking and pulling my finger up, trying to avoid the delicate fiber optic cables. And if I follow that cable through, I can see that it lands me here, right, to this particular machine. So now if I take this out, okay, and assuming that everything else works, put this into my laptop, I should be able to get an IP address, assuming that I have connectivity. So how do I check that I've got connectivity when I'm not at the switch, right? If I'm using another switch, how do I check that I've got connectivity? Good question. So what you can do is you can write a command, because this is an Arista, it's got a very similar command interface to to Cisco. So you can do a show IP int brief, I think, which gives me the VLAN. So this gives me the VLAN information. There's another command, and I'm trying to remember what it is. It's like show, I think it's like show address, I think. Show VLAN, no, it's like show, because I normally do show IP int brief, but it's not show IP int brief for this one. It's going to be show, I think it's show addresses. Try that. Incomplete command. So addresses. Display. Let's try that. Nope. Let's have a look. Show IP. Do we have interface? Show IP interface? Show IP address. Oh, virtual router address, that's not it. Show IP. Oh, it should be in. Show IP brief. Show IP int. Oh, we could do a show IP int. It just gives me VLAN 10 on 253. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I am going to Google on my phone very quickly. Arista show interfaces, which is apparently just show interfaces. So show int, sh int, and we can see we're getting some interface information. So it's going to be something like show in brief, I think. It's going to be what it is. So let's wait for this to continue. That's the thing with a very, very large switch like this, it can take some time to go through all the interfaces. Oh dear. Yeah, because on a Cisco switch you have something called show IP int brief, but in I know in Arista it's a little bit different, which is like, I think it's like show interface status, I think? Show int stat. Stat. Yeah, there we go. Show interface status. That's basically show IP in brief. And I can check for VLAN for port number 38. And as you can see here, not very easily, but ET38 is connected and it's negotiating at 1G. Okay, so that's ET38 and it should say connected, A full, A10, A1G, right? So that means we've got a connection from the switch, which is good. Now let's check if we have an IP address. We can go to terminal ipconfig, and we do, right? So that means we've got connectivity, and we can see that we have an IP address of 1034. Okay, so when that happens, what that means is I should be now able to go and talk to my switch, to my VMware system on 10.5, and as you can see, we've got no connectivity. Okay, and what does that mean? Well, first of all, we can do our basic troubleshooting steps, which means that, you know, let's check the interfaces on the back of the system, make sure that they're on. So what we can see is very simple. The system itself is not on. So first thing we need to do is turn on the system, right? And that should result in some fan spin, some noise like this. Okay. Which is good. So the other thing as well is that certain transceivers will light up and some won't. So you see how we have transceivers down here? They'll start lighting up in a minute because they'll be connected to the switch, right? The rest are through fiber optics. So not OC4 cables through those SFPs when the system comes online, because it's going to take a bit of time. But when they do, certain ones will come on and certain ones won't, which is a bit annoying. Right, so I'll wait for that and then I'll get back to you. And we're back. As you can see, we have 3. Well, now you can see we have 3 Ethernet adapters and 3 more Ethernet adapters online, which is down there. So in this case, we don't have to do anything. That is looking pretty good. Pretty good. So better than I expected. Do we have Ethernet connectivity? I can see we most probably do, because we have light coming up and down. Let's just check the status lights. So if it's orange, it means it's on 10 gig. If it's on green, it's 25. And I can see that we have 4 25s on, which is good, and 2 orange at 10. That's great. Okay, cool. So we should be able to load into vSphere. And that's my IP address there. And that should be going through, assuming it's got an IP. If not, then we need to go into more diagnosis. Not seeing anything. That's kind of annoying. Okay, well, let's do some more troubleshooting. Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay, cool. Advanced, proceed. My username and password, which I'm not going to show on camera, so have a nice view of the VMware system over there. Okay, and we're in, and we go to virtual machine, and this is where it gets interesting, because now what we need to do is we need to go and turn on all machines. So we go to, for example, GHA. There should be another GHA machine here, which I forget where it is. vSphere, my other GHA machine, pfSense. Okay, first of all, let's turn on pfSense. Okay. Now, when I turn on pfSense, what we want to do is we want to look at fail to power on and a task is going on. Okay, well, let's wait for it to power on, and it's running the code. Okay, what we want to do is we want to look at pfSense from inside of vSphere and wait for this to load, basically. Now, this will load up all the different networks on the system, including my IP. So I'm not gonna, for safety, for my IP address not being leaked online, because this has my WAN address, I can't show you that. So I'm going to tell you kind of when it's done. So as you can see, it's loading it all up now, right? So it says done, 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 like that, right? Because I've got to be quick, you know, done, 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 done. Now it's doing DNS resolution, which is from online. Once it's done that, then what I need to do is disconnect my, what's it called? I need to disconnect my Ubiquity system. So I'm just waiting for it to get, oh, okay, so it's done, which is good. So I just need to disconnect this one. Edge router is disconnected. Now that should flush the IP addresses shortly, but I don't really need to because they're already stored in the ARP cache of each system. So when they're stored in the ARP cache of each system, that means that they're going to be there and aging out over a certain period of time. So the IP addresses within each system, right, will be aged out over a certain period of time. So I should be able to get back online in a minute. At the moment, you'll see what I'm talking about. So if we go down here on the screen, you'll notice something which is odd, right? If I've got internet connectivity, why is it that I don't have the internet stable down here, you know, or even any sort of internet coming through? Okay, well, there's a couple of reasons for that. So first of all, I can see that we have my connections all up and running, which is fine. So second of all, what we need to do is find out what the IP addresses are currently on the system. So I'm going to go back to my command line, go back to my system down here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an IP config. And I'm going to just check what's in here at the moment. Now I can see that we still have our old IP address of 34 in here. So with that, what we can do is we can do an IP config / release and then check if DHCP is working. So as it's doing all of that information and all of that stuff, what we can do is we can do an IP address / IP config / release renew is the command. So as we're doing that, what you'll see is it will try and attempt to get an IP address. And as I can see now, I'm connected back to my VMware pfSense system. We have internet, as we can see that the application of OneDrive is now up. And we can also see that the IP address has been renewed from the cache. So the other alternative check that we can do is we have the Windows icon with internet enabled on Windows 11. And there we go. Troubleshooting steps done. Internet's back on. And very soon everyone will be happy. Let's just check the Wi-Fi, make sure that that's good as well, because sometimes that can be problematic. So for the Wi-Fi, connect. Okay, so we have a slight Wi-Fi issue, but nothing too serious that we can't sort. The Wi-Fi issue tends to be more from the APs than from the main system. So to get around that, what we need to do is we need to go back to our AP and just check what's going on. So from the AP side of things, sorry, from the switch side of things, right, I can see that we've got signal coming in. So we've got system, but I don't think we've got any activity coming in, which is a little bit strange. I think we should have both lights, but I can also see that we've got one light on the Wi-Fi. So let's check the AP. It's on red, which is where it's supposed to be. But I think that we just need to take it out and turn it back in again and put it back in again to reset the IP address on the AP itself. So let's just do that, because it may be suffering from the same fate as what we had earlier. Okay, it's plugged in. It's looking. It's thinking about it. Okay, it looks like it's online. Still red. No information, that's bizarre. Can we connect? PC battery is running low. Let's, if that doesn't work, then we need to reboot the AP. What I'm going to do is I'm going to... Hello, what's going on here? So it says no internet secured. Okay. Okay. Let's just check again. Okay, no internet secured. I'm just going to check my phone, which is on 5G. So we have no internet. Okay, cool. On the Wi-Fi. Right. Okay, fine. What we're going to do is we're going to go back and we are going to switch this on and off to see if we can get a separate IP. Okay. Alright, okay, so that's going to be turning off and on. Give that some time. We are getting a signal. That looks good. So we're getting 10 gig in, which is good. But we just need the AP now to respond with the new IP address information. And that should fix our problem. Yeah, sometimes it's literally as simple as turning things on and off again. Literally. And we're on green. It should go to red in a minute because it's in mesh mode. So it's Asus XT12, I think it's called. Yeah, XT12. And that has mesh capabilities, so I don't need wires to go upstairs. I get Wi-Fi directly from the mesh system. So it's going green now, and you can see. Well, kind of. Yeah, you can see. Oh, it's going green. Green, so it's getting information. Trying to figure out what to do before going into AP mode. So it should, if we're getting the correct information back in, go red, and it should work. If it doesn't, it keeps blinking green, then I have to go to my VMware system and figure out what's going on with the interfaces. But yeah, okay, there we go. It's red. That's good. Still not getting any information being transferred, so that's a bit worrying. Alright, let's have a look. Yeah, it's not having any antennas, which makes sense. We should have vCloud. Okay, cool. vCloud is there. Let's try the vCloud system, see if we get any sort of connection. Okay, we're not getting anything from vCloud. So this is a timing issue. That's a timing issue. Okay. So let us check. We've got 25, 25, 25. That all looks good. 2 from the 10s. I mean, it looks fine. Okay. Plot thickens. Let's check. Okay, and we got 5G up as well. Let's try 5G. I'm not getting anything in terms of signal. Let's check VLANs. Yeah, I mean it's there. Okay, oh. So, need to restart my laptop. But yeah, we don't have any, Oh, okay, cool, nice. Nice. Right, so I'm gonna take some time out, I'm gonna figure out what that's was. Okay, so I fixed the issue with the switch. So as you can see, we've got all 3 lights on, and then it's, well, we have this light here on the RJ45, and then we've got the other one on the SFP. You see, we've got all 3 lights in. So what I did was at the back, right? There's no kind of I can't feel any sort of on-off button, but you can see that there's a power lead which comes in and out, and that power lead that comes in and out, we have to take it. We just take it off and we just put it back in again, and then that resolved the entire issue of the switch. So sometimes it's the equipment which is in between the connection which causes the problem. Sometimes it isn't. We did try with the router itself, in other words the AP I should say, the AP going into the switch, and we tried by taking that lead in and out, and that didn't work. So, you know, sometimes it's the equipment itself which just needs a bit of a reboot. Once that's done, then everything is done. See, and then that's how it all works. All right, see you in the next one.